I had like this this is just one of those moments that like humbles you. I had made chili for lunch, heated some up. I was gonna go get in my bed, watch a show. Sunny was playing super well in her playroom. I bring the chili upstairs. Bella, my dog, had pooped on our new rug. Super not like her. She does not just like poop in the house. I was like, what is going on? So I'm like, okay, I clean that up. And then Sunny we're like on the tail end of potty training. She's like 99% of the time mastered it, but sometimes I think she waits too long until she realizes she really has to go, and then she's like struggling to get her underwear off in time. Yeah. So she had peed all over her underwear, down her legs, and all over the floor. And I'm like, okay, you didn't mean to. It's okay. So I'm like cleaning her up, get her all cleaned up. I go back into my room. Benny, my other dog, had eaten all my chili. And I'm like, okay. And I literally out loud was like, I can do this. I am going to stay calm. I can do this. And I go downstairs. I make more chili. I get in bed. Sunny comes in and jumps on the bed twice. Jump, lands in my bowl of chili. It goes all over. Like I had just cleaned the sheets. Same brand new rug that Bella just pooped on. Chili there. She like burns her ankle probably because it was so hot. And all over my laptop as well. And I just yell. I'm like, Sunny Lou, go to your room. And I'm like, oh, there goes the calm. And I like sat there and I was like, I can like rationally know that like this is not her problem. But there was just like, that was like strike 5 in the matter of literally 15 minutes. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I like gather myself and I throw everything in the wash and I like go into her room to talk to her. And of course her little lip is like quivering.
Yeah, and you instantly feel like a terrible person.
Yeah, I felt horrible because you know what she said? She put both of her hands over her heart like this. She goes, Mom, I'm just so loving you so much. Please don't yell at me.
Oh my gosh, Sunny.
And I literally just start bawling and I just like hug her and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to yell at you. Like that was not your fault. That was mommy being overwhelmed and it was not your problem. I really should not eat chili in bed.
Yeah.
Lesson
learned.
But oh my gosh, it's just those moments where you're like, wow.
That happens with Noah. Wow. And I feel like when he was 2, it was like I had a really good control on myself.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't really have any of those moments. But
yeah.
But then as he got older and now he's got like opinions and like brain power to argue back with me or whatever.
Yeah.
I have those moments, and especially now that I have Lily.
Yeah.
Because like I know I've told you this like 10 times, but having your nipples sucked on all day and then also having a toddler is hard. It's hard. But I think as long as you're like apologizing, seriously, I think as long as you're apologizing, you're not doing lasting damage.
I know. I wrote a post about this the other day where I was like, for me so far, motherhood hasn't been hard because it's like demanding or taxing or any of the reasons that like people say it's hard. It's been so hard for me because Sunny's character to me is so like, it just convicts me and reminds me every day of like my shortcomings and like how big of like a problem I can be. And I think how selfish I can be. And that is what's hard is like, I spend so much of my time being like, I don't deserve you. Like, and I don't want to ruin you because you just seem so precious and so like straight from heaven. And I'm like, oh, it just feels like such a high calling. And so
it is. There's a lot of pressure.
That was like a total mom fail that also just like melted my heart. And I'm like, her little brain saying like, I just love you so much. Why would you yell at me?
No, you know? I know. Or if I look in the backseat or something or wherever we're at and Noah's eyes are filled with tears and Mom, you made my heart so sad.
I know.
Gosh, dang it, buddy.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I know. It's really the worst thing ever. And it's like, I feel like, I don't know if you do this, but I'll spend a lot of time just kind of trying to visualize like the mom I want to be, showing up as her every day, as well as like the long-term relationships that I have with Sunny. Like, what kind of mom is she going to remember me as? What kind of like mom is she going to be because of the mom I am to her? You know, all that stuff. And it's like, it just sucks when you fall short of that and you're like, okay, I just pray every night. I'm like, please, Lord, fill the gaps because there's a lot and I don't want to ruin this child.
Do you know, I've had a conversation with Noah so many times that now he recites it back to me. And whenever I'm like in apology mode and I'm like, you know, Noah, I'm so sorry. Mommy lost her temper. I'll say, I'm not perfect. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes he'll do something and he'll come up to me. He's like, Mom, I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I'm like, good reminder.
You're like, valid.
Yeah, that's okay. I got it.
You're actually learning even more than I am, probably. Oh, I know.
Well,
anyways,
welcome back to the
little
Motherhood
mouths.
Collective Co.
Yeah.
So really cute little
We're
opening.
like a little bit like winging this, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we had a live. Hopefully you saw that on our Instagram page. We
Yeah.
had a live with the not so tired toddler.
Yeah.
Who's a toddler sleep specialist, which we were really excited about. You guys, we kind of had a really insane week.
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming off of our event.
We're coming off of our event. Our event was great.
Yeah, it was so fun.
It was so great. While we were at our event, we had a reel go viral, like super viral. And like, not super viral in terms of like views. It got a lot of views, but like super viral in terms of like there's a
polarization.
lot of people, like really mad at us on that.
This is okay. This is what's so funny though. Like the difference between Amanda and I is like, I would have been like, I don't think there's a lot of people that are mad at us, but I feel like,
what you guys think of me.
Well, this is okay. This is actually what was so funny is we were at our event. And I was like, Amanda, just so you know, like, I'm not policing the comments on this reel right now because like we're at this event. And she's like, what do you mean policing the comments? And I was like, I've been like making sure that you don't get your feelings hurt because I like want to protect you. Okay, so I'm like making sure you don't see any of these mean comments or messages or whatever. And she's like, no way, you are not. And then Brady overheard me and he was like, you need to stop doing that.
She's fine. Well, and I was fine for all of about an hour and a half because I woke up the next morning. I'm like, okay, I can do this. There's some mean comments.
Yeah.
And then, one thing led to another and I ended up in tears for like the whole day. So like, when you're on the internet, just be kind.
I know.
Like, just be so kind.
But I think what, like, the point you made multiple times when replying to comments is, like, you cannot look at a 1-minute clip of, like, an hour-long video. Yeah. And assume you got the whole gist.
You don't.
Especially because I really do feel like we try to communicate in a way that's, like, it's okay if you don't agree with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And our overall message is that, but like I do think in that clip, I didn't put my best face forward.
Amanda's being hard on herself. I still don't see anything wrong with the clip, but
okay. That's why I love you, because you're kind to
I think I just like, you're just hard on yourself. And I feel like it's really easy sometimes to like see the minority as the majority, but the majority of people are like feeling heard, feeling seen, grateful, validating. The minority are triggered and mad and mean.
Real bad.
And like, that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
But
I told Brady, I'm like, I can handle this as long as no one like says something mean about like us, like the way we look or like bullying high school, which we didn't have. It was more just the way our brains work.
I know. No, that's true though.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. It is.
Anyways.
But I've just like, I've been there with like a few different reels on my page have gone viral and there's been people that have said things and I'm just like, it's a really good thing you just like don't know me. So it just like doesn't hold merit to me because I'm like, you literally don't know me. It'd be one thing if like you were coming to me or like my family and being like, hey, you suck.
Yeah.
Or like you're a really bad mom or like you're trying to kill your daughter or like that would matter to me because I'm like, okay, you know me and you're still drawing these conclusions. If a stranger's drawing those conclusions about me, I'm like, oh, well.
Also, like you said, that night of the event that I think gave me power. It was like, Jesus was perfect and he was literally crucified. So like, who are we to think that we can post things out into the public and not be crucified? And then Brady sent me, I don't know, do you know who Alex Hormozy is? No. It's like one of Brady's guys that he really enjoys watching. He's like a business guy. And Brady sent me this video. It was of him, and he's like, so there's this really big like money guru. This guy's worth like $20 billion, and he makes this video, and people are on his video. This guy's like got $20 billion, and he's got a bunch of broke people telling him how stupid he is. He's like, so if that guy can't even make, if a guy that has $20 billion can't make a video about how to make money and not be criticized, like you're gonna get criticized. That's just whatever.
There's literally no one in the world that's not gonna get but that brings me a lot of peace. I like hope to teach Sunny that all the time. It's like, okay, so a literal perfect human being came and walked the face of the planet and people still killed him and hated him. So Oh,
I
well.
love that. Anyways, so
we're not, and we're imperfect. And I know we
Yes.
say things that are not, you know, always the best.
Yeah,
but
I'm not like, nobody should be held to a standard
no,
either,
no,
right? Like I would never expect one of my friends to not
No.
slip up and say something that offended somebody.
No.
So whatever.
That's something I tell my friends. Literally, if you're friends with me, I beg people. I'm like, please tell me if I say something
Yeah.
or do something that like upsets you, because I'm not gonna know, and I care about you, and we just don't know what we don't know. We're not perfect. Whatever.
I'm really uncomfortable. My right boob is leaking so bad.
It's leaking.
It's leaking. It's engorged.
Good thing you're wearing black.
I
just ordered so much stuff on Amazon today, and Chase he got home from work before I got home, and he saw like so many. He was like, "What did you get?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I'm just so convinced that I'm like, nothing feels good on me right now postpartum. Like, what am I gonna wear?"
I know.
I just had this like freak out.
At least
like,
you're
I need postpartum
in fall,
clothes
where like everything can be baggy and comfy.
Mm-hmm.
Not summer where like everyone wants to show their whole body.
I know, that's true.
It's so hard.
But I was like, I'm just gonna try it all on and see what works. But
I did that. I have a lot of stuff in my closet that I said I was just gonna see if it works, and then I never wore it, and it's just still there. I never returned it. Like, you know,
Amazon is so easy to return though.
I know.
I do that like daily almost. There's a run to UPS.
I just have this like fear of leaving Lily and Noah in the car.
Oh.
And then also like I don't want to get them out just to go into UPS.
You know the UPS like right by Orange Theory and King Soopers off of like Lincoln and Jordan?
No.
There's one that like
King Soopers off of Lincoln and Jordan.
Yeah,
like
there's a UPS over there. Yeah.
No, off of Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like pull the car up literally right to the front, and then I like get out and run in, and you scan your little thing, and I'm in there for like maybe 20 seconds.
No, that's literally the one off of Main Street too. I just have an issue.
And you don't even have to go to like a parking spot.
I still have like all my intrusive thoughts. Like, what if someone takes my car?
But like they can't if you like lock it.
But you can't leave your kids in the car locked because the Telluride alarm will go off.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like you can leave your car running. So there's in my head, the car's running. I just want to lock the door. You can't because the alarm goes off if someone's in the car while the door's locked.
That's weird. I'll like I turn mine off.
Oh, well, it's been nice. This was like the dead of summer. Anyways.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't well, it depends on the state. Like you can like leave your kid in the car in different states up to certain amounts of minutes. But what's funny is like, that's the only situation I'll do it. I won't even leave my dogs in the car because I'm like convinced somebody's going to steal them.
Yeah, or like break your window like because they think you're and then take them. Yeah.
Or call,
we used it because Seamus used to come into the office all the time. This is like totally not related to what we're recording today though. So just so you guys know. But he would come to the office with us all the time. So when we would take him to go get lunch so he could get out of the office. And then like I would leave my car running and leave him in there and people would be like in the restaurant. I mean like waiting for my food that I ordered online. And they're like, whose car is this? So anyways, we're going to talk a little bit more about postpartum today. This kind of might be wrapping up our postpartum series. Is it?
Probably.
Or because we talked about the first month or the first 2 weeks, I guess, really, but the first month-ish.
Yeah.
On our first episode, we talked about bed sharing. We're going to kind of hit like your 6-week appointment, 4 months in.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the longer issues with postpartum.
Yeah.
And I might come back after you have your baby and do like a mental health episode.
I was just going to say that. I feel like you should totally do that. You can even do that with my sister, maybe.
Yeah. Ooh.
She struggled really bad with postpartum depression.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Would she come to my house this late at night? Okay. Just checking.
She works overnight.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. As a nurse.
She's
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, you got your baby. Now you guys, you're about a month old. Mm-hmm. I feel like you really hit your stride postpartum at a month. I mean, you feel at least like you've hit your stride, right? Because like you've kind of got breastfeeding down-ish. You know,
whatever's going to work for you is probably working at that point.
You've kind of figured out what you're doing with sleep and you're like able to like get outside, and you probably went out of the house a few times with your baby and probably feeling pretty confident with that. Yeah. Which is like a huge game changer. I think that's like a pivot point in postpartum is like when you can get out by yourself and like not feel overwhelmed by it. So but the next thing that happens is like your 6-week appointment. And Jesse and I were just talking about this while we were eating caramel apples in my kitchen.
Yeah, because I didn't go to mine.
You didn't go to yours because
I was so angry.
You were mad at your doctors.
Yeah.
I went to mine. So if you remember my birth story, I started at a birth center and a midwife who became the villain of my story. And the doctors in my head.
I almost hired to deliver this.
Oh my gosh. She said that name, you guys. She's like, yeah, it's going to be this person. And I like literally had a cold sweat and my heart started racing.
That was like one of the most confusing days of my life. I'm like, okay, I have so much peace. Like I had like struggled to make a decision about birth for so long. And I'm like, okay, I have peace. Text this midwife, I'm going with you, we're doing a home birth, all this stuff. And I drive literally straight to Amanda's house after that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. She's like, what's her name? Like,
well, and it wasn't even just because I had the bad experience, because like I could have let that go, but we looked her up and she has like a Supreme Court case of over infant death.
Yeah.
So
you know what's crazy though, like the more I've thought about that, I'm like, I don't even know if that bothers me, because how many OBs are responsible for like the death of infants, but they're covered by their liability policies? And I'm like, okay, so if she has one, you know, a baby died under her care, that matters less to me than the fact that she lied about having a 0 transfer rate.
Yeah, hey, I'm a transfer.
And you were the one person I met who had been delivered by her, and you had transferred. And then I started like reading more, and I'm like, I feel worse about that you lied.
Yeah.
Because I get like that things happen and that is awful, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but like how many times does that happen in a hospital and you never blame the doctor?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That is like so true.
So,
but
anyways.
So I did go to my 6-week appointment with Noah. And I was so disappointed. I like walked in and here I am. I'm like, I was having a hard time breastfeeding. At that point, like postpartum depression had really kicked in. I wasn't like totally aware of it though. Looking back, it was very obvious to me now. And I was also like, I didn't know it yet because I hadn't tried to have sex, but I was about to go on this huge journey of like why sex was so painful for me for months and months postpartum. So like, it was so disappointing. I walked in, and the doctor who I scheduled with the doctor that did my C-section, I was kind of excited to see her because in my head, I'm like, okay, she kind of saved me from the situation I was in. So I was like, she cares about me. No, she popped in. She said, hey, I don't have time. So my assistant's going to take care of you. And I'm like, okay. And they walked in and she literally looked at my scar, didn't touch it. She just looked at it. My incision, and asked me if I was doing okay, and that was like literally it. And then I was gone, and I left that appointment. I was so sad. And let me tell you about my experience this time, you guys, because I was with a midwife group at the hospital. Ended up with cholera. I think I'm saying that right. Cholera, an infection from them breaking my water, needing an emergency C-section after Lily's like heartbeat crashed. Anyways. Had the most insane C-section ever, and nobody called me. I left that hospital, the midwife group nor the OB group like tried to schedule an appointment with me. Nobody has checked in on me. Nobody has done, and I mean, I wasn't about to be driving downtown for this appointment anyways after my first experience, but your 6-week appointment, and maybe if you have a vaginal birth, maybe they're doing like some internal check. Hang on a second. To see if like your stitches have healed or any tears are healed or whatever the situation is. But like they're not thoroughly checking you. So do you know what I did this time? I made an appointment at 6 weeks with my pelvic floor PT. And I got an actual assessment of what was going on. She like looked at my incision. She moved my incision. She did a complete exam like on my core and how it was healing. And because I'm a sexual abuse survivor, I have a really hard time with people like touching me. So I didn't do an internal exam, but that's something that she does, you know, like she would do an internal muscular exam on your pelvic floor to see how it's operating.
I did that during pregnancy, and I actually I don't know if this is TMI or not, but like I was laughing driving home from my appointment because I don't know what I was expecting, but like I feel like she literally like graded my whole vaginal canal, like because there's like different like depths and layers to all of your muscles and all your tissue, and it was just so funny to like listen to how she's like, okay, right now I'm like, oh, this is so like pink and fleshy and it's perfect. And then this is like, and I'm like getting all these like, and I'm like, okay. So of course I like call my husband. I'm like, so do you want to hear what my vagina scored? But it's just like funny because I feel like it was helpful because I wouldn't have been able to otherwise note like certain muscles.
Yeah.
And how to relax them with breathing
100%.
techniques. And it's very like everyone hears like, oh, go to pelvic floor PT, but like you don't really know what it's about until you go.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole portion of our bodies that like
we're
does all this work
too.
Yeah. And then it does all this work even if you like got a C-section. Like Amanda pushed until like you pushed for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours with Noah, an hour and a half with Lily, and I got to 10 centimeters, and she was at a station 1. So like your
entire pelvic floor felt that, and then you also had a C-section, and you also just carried a baby for like. It's like all like this
your pelvic floor has everything to do with even just your breathing. If you've never even had a child, like you breathing, your pelvic floor is an integral part of you breathing. So,
but I feel like those doctors have a gift of like making it not weird.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know, and like are very 100%. Like respectful and very like. So if that sounds like intimidating, I would just like. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. Like, and I don't do internal exams, but like my pelvic floor PT, she's kind of a big deal in the PT world. She's like. She does electro needling on the pelvic floor, which is like a thing that not a lot of people know how to do. She teaches courses and she's like super connected in Denver. And so like I'm just like laying there and I'm like spreading my cheeks as she's like sticking needles, you know, in my crack. And it's not weird at all. I mean, it would be in any other circumstance.
It sounds like it, but it's like not when you're there.
No, it's not. She's great. So I would definitely like recommend, and it doesn't have to be a pelvic floor PT, but like maybe don't depend on one person for that check.
Well, that's the thing is like, I just don't know that OBs are trained to know or have the capacity to know, how to fully assess a mom at 6 weeks postpartum. And what was interesting is like, I didn't go to my 6-week checkup because I had so much frustration and resentment towards my doctor. And I wasn't sure about what I would say to her, but Sunny's pediatrician was the one that diagnosed me with PTSD. She was like, you are exhibiting like all of the symptoms. There was like a questionnaire and I was so in a fog. Like I would have not been able to tell anybody like that I was struggling with like trauma. Yeah. By any means.
You don't. In the moment, you don't.
You almost like need someone else to tell you that you are like, okay, you just experienced a traumatic event. And so they have at Sunny's pediatrician, which is so interesting because I don't know if they do this at like if you go to your OB, but you fill out like a questionnaire.
Yeah, it's like
about how you're doing.
It's a postpartum depression questionnaire.
Yeah, and so she actually came back and she was like,
and you were honest, which is
I was honest, but I also feel like it might have even been like about birth trauma. I don't remember. She said, you know, there's like 20 questions on here. You're exhibiting like 19 of the 20 symptoms listed here for birth trauma. Like the only thing I wasn't experiencing was like a resentment or a disconnect with my baby. I was like obsessed with her, but everything else was like checking out. And she was the one that was like, here's some resources, you know, check these out. And I just don't think that, I don't know what would have happened if she didn't like tell me, but I walked away from that appointment feeling so validated and seen and like, okay, so something is wrong with me. Yeah. Because I don't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
But I don't know that my doctor would have known or cared.
Okay. This might get me in trouble too. Maybe I won't make a reel about this one. But maybe I will. Your 6 weeks appointment is basically an opportunity for them to sell you birth control.
It's 1000% about birth control. It's like, okay.
They get a kickback. From as far as I know, they get a kickback for putting you on this. It's like a pharmaceutical, you know, commission kind of. And it's all about birth control. That's what it's about. Yeah. So I would not rely on your normal OB to do a thorough examination. Because really the information you actually need at 6 weeks postpartum is, do I have any coning in my core? Do I have any diastasis recti? And if so, how do I correct that? Do I have, how are my hormone levels? Is sex about to hurt me because
or like lingering UTIs,
Yes.
lingering yeast infections, super
Anything
common
like
if you are on a ton of antibiotics during labor,
Yep.
which C-section moms are.
Also, like, what is the health of my pelvic floor? Am I going to be, you know, for the rest of my life dancing because I have to pee because I'm going to dribble every time I'm on a trampoline or I sneeze? Like, OBs aren't assessing for any of that. So I would definitely recommend finding like a pelvic floor PT to help you with those things. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Well, you have to seek out, like how we always talk about, like, find your village.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about, like, find your village medically as well.
Yes.
Find your village that, like, will back you up. And I had promised myself after my birth with Sunny, I was going to have a village of providers that I could rely on my entire pregnancy that would be able to, like, help me bounce ideas off of, help me, like, navigate the trenches of all sorts of stuff. And I can confidently say that I have like 5 to 7 different providers right now that I trust to navigate decisions with, to talk over things with. And it's so contraindicated of, like, oh, I'm not even going to go down there, but it's so different than my birth and my pregnancy with Sunny, where I had one provider looking in my face, telling me everything that she believed and coercing me in every decision. And I was like, never again.
Yeah. Not doing
And if we're not having, like, inviting all those people in, like, we have to fight to care for ourselves, and we have to fight for the care that we know that we need, because otherwise it's not just going to come to us.
No, 100%.
And that's for your kids too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So 6-week postpartum check.
Yeah.
Find somebody who knows what they're doing. DM us if you have questions about that, because I would love to answer them for you.
And if you don't want to go, you don't need to go.
Yeah. No, yeah. Even if they did call and ask me to schedule it with them, I was not going to do it. I had the person I was going to for help with that. And I'm glad I made that decision.
But you want to know what's funny is, like, the midwives I'm with right now, I'm going to want to go to my 6-week checkup because all of our appointments right now, we sit and we talk for like an hour to 2 hours and they're like pre-processing birth with me in a way that I'm like, no matter how this unfolds, they're going to be there on the tail end to process it with me again. Like, they're not in a hurry.
That's not a blanket statement.
Right.
Like, all providers are evil, for sure. Not
Yeah.
at all, but not all of them are great.
Yeah. Find the ones that are, the ones that are great.
Are great, that like care for you as a person. And you're not just a number, right? You're not just an insurance claim. You're not. We're not
even using insurance for this birth.
Oh, we don't have insurance. We're self-pay everything. So
I know. That's a whole nother scam we could get into.
We could. Day. I could do a whole podcast episode about it. Like a whole podcast episode. So around 6 weeks, that's when a lot of you will be like cleared to start working out, to start exercising, cleared to have sex, cleared to, like, they just say like, okay, 6 weeks postpartum's over. Yeah. Like, you're golden, you're good. But what happens? Get back to it. What happens when that doesn't happen? Because for me, like, if you've heard any of our early episodes, for me, physical intimacy is like a really big deal to my husband and I. And we tried, and I had the most insane pain for like 6 months postpartum. And there's like once I boiled it down, it was like low estrogen because I'm breastfeeding and I produce a lot of milk.
Which is super common.
Yes, that is super common. And I'm also somebody who's not going to do an estrogen cream.
Yeah.
And then we could get into the reasons of that. But like, as a holistic person, like the risks that come along with putting synthetic hormones in your body, like, I just didn't want to take it on just so I could have sex, if that makes sense. I mean, maybe there is a situation I would. I don't know.
When there's alternatives.
Yeah. And it was also that, and then a combination of my pelvic floor health. I had not been to a pelvic floor PT at this point, because if I had, she would have told me your pelvic floor is a freaking rock and it is about to destroy your world. Because for the 18 months after I had Noah, it was like constant UTIs, because I physically could not empty my bladder. And my whole life, like, I held tension in my pelvic floor from my trauma, but like, I didn't know that it wasn't normal to have to strain to get urine out of my body. Like, I didn't know that you just sit down and you're supposed to relax and like, you know what I mean? So like, I had a rock for a pelvic floor and it was causing serious nerve damage. And so, like, life doesn't always go back to normal at 6 weeks. And in fact, I would say life does not actually go back to normal at all at 6 weeks postpartum. And a lot of people, I would say, like, we just had our event and we were asking people, like, when did you feel like, quote, normal, or when could you do the normal things? And I feel like the vast majority of people said like a year.
Up to a year. Or
a
two.
year
Yeah.
postpartum was kind of like when things turned. And I think I felt that too.
Yeah.
I think when Noah turned a year old, I felt like more confident in the gym. Like I felt more confident in my skin. I felt more, you know, by that time sex was great and my hormones were kind of leveling out a little bit, although it would still be another year before I had a period. So
I actually read something recently that said you are considered clinically postpartum for 2 years, according to like your nutrient stores and your hormones and your weight and, you know, your milk, all of the things that had to transpire. It's almost like double the amount of the time that you were pregnant that it takes to kind of like unwind. And that's not even considering moms who might be nursing that entire time. Yep. And so, I don't know. I like had that thought today because I just went and got my hair chopped off. I chopped like 7 inches off. It's and so I was talking to my hair lady and I'm like, why is my hair, it just doesn't feel the same that it did before I like had Sunny. And I just started thinking about how, and I've mentioned this in this podcast before, just because I think it's a newer revelation for me. I'm like, my body is going on 4 years of not being my own because I was pregnant. You're pregnant for essentially almost a whole year.
Yeah.
Pregnant with Sunny, nursed for 2 years, pregnant with this baby, and now we're gonna nurse for who knows how long. But like, you are constantly giving of yourself. Like, my body hasn't been my own in 4 straight years, and I know there's moms listening to this who could say the same for 10 plus years. And like, you're constantly providing for more than just yourself, and there's things that are affected by that. And I just don't think we give ourselves the grace to like navigate that. Like,
I think society tells us like we need to bounce back. We need to be who we were before. Right. And I think that not the whole point of motherhood, because the whole point of motherhood is to have children and raise children. But like the other side of that is like, you're supposed to transform. You're never supposed to be who you were before you had children. And if you are, maybe you're not learning what you're supposed to learn. Like, this is a learning experience. It's transformative, and your body is going to go through a total transformation. That's okay. Yeah. But you did say something like right here around the 6-week mark, prolactin decreases in your body, and then your hair starts to fall out. Like, I am not kidding you guys. I have lost half the hair on my head.
Is it prolactin or progesterone?
Oh, maybe it's progesterone.
Yeah,
I don't know. Progesterone. But I'm not even joking. I have lost at least 50% of the hair on my head. There are days like I want to cry because
so much hair still.
No, it's not. My ponytail is like this thick right now. Yes, it is insane. It's absolutely insane. And this probably happened with Noah too, but with Noah I had chopped my hair like to my chin right before I had him. Yeah. So like it wasn't as dramatic, but like with my hair's like down to my butt right now, and to like see all of that hair falling out. Hard. So your hair falls out and it has nothing. I mean, I'm sure there are cases of like nutrition where you're not getting enough and it's worse, but no matter what, you don't shed hair when you're pregnant. Yeah. And when you lose all of those hormones, all of the hair you've been holding on to, it just all falls out at the same time. So you're not going to be able to avoid that. You're going to lose hair. So sex might not feel good because your estrogen is low. Yeah. And then now your hair is falling out. And then, just throw in some saggy skin and really big boobs. And then you've got the whole package.
And like the mentality of like, my boobs right now are for my baby, not my husband. That was something that we were talking about at our event too, is like, how do you like transition from like daytime, like I'm a mom, here's my milk for my child, to full blown like nighttime, let's be sexy, and like now my boobs are for you. That is such a hard mental hurdle.
It is. And I feel like also we talked about this at the event as well. It's like your love language really changes after after you give birth. And I feel like the majority of women, if you retake that love language test, if you were physical touch before, you are not physical touch after. Because you were. That
happened to me.
Yeah, it happened to me.
I was like full blown physical touch. I was the girl that was like snuggle me all night. I like can't get enough. Like we would like I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not gonna go there. But I was just like always like I was obsessed with physical touch. And then now I'm like, it's hard.
Like a whole day will go by and I didn't even kiss my husband.
Like I will have like I want to have sex with you, but like I don't want to hug for longer than like 2 seconds. Yeah. Or like it's just weird. I feel like because you have these tiny humans attached to you, and I also have what I call 2 Velcro dogs, which like you might be laughing at if you're listening to this, but until you have Velcro dogs, you don't understand. Like they actually take up so much of your like, you're like, everybody get away from me. Yeah. So gifts are my love language now. I'm like, if he comes
you are
home,
100% gifts.
If he comes home with like anything, it could be like the tiniest thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so loved. That's all I needed. And like time.
Yeah.
I love time.
I just want to like sit and watch a movie with you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, you know, if I get in bed and like scratch my back, but you have to touch me in a way I want you to touch me. And then maybe we can talk. Like I want light, tickly scratches on my back for like 20 minutes. Yeah. and then maybe we'll decide if it's going from there. Yeah. I know. So, but I feel like it's like this really big thing on the internet, like the jokes about like, oh, the 6-week appointment.
I know. All the men somehow know about that.
I know. But like, please don't put pressure on yourself because your hormones are nowhere near where they need to be to have like a sex drive.
Nothing.
It's not. And it's probably not going to feel great. Okay. Let me tell you what to do if it's not feeling great.
Well, really quickly before you say that, it could be not even just that it's not feeling great, but if your birth was like, even if it went well, something just came out of there. Yes. Or you just got cut open.
Yes.
And for me, like, I didn't feel like you can like really adequately have sex with your scar being completely like untouched or ignored. And so like that was very triggering for me. Like if you had a traumatic birth and you don't want someone touching your scar, or like there's just so many layers to it.
There is a lot of
layers. Or you're like terrified to get pregnant again, you know?
You got to give yourself time to like calm down and heal.
Yeah.
But if sex is hurting, it is a combination, or it could be a combination or one of the low estrogen, the pelvic floor dysfunction, or it could just be like trauma from birth. Yeah. Like tissues are still repairing, things like that. But, go back and listen to our sex ed episode because foreplay is your new best friend. And then also in our first episode, I talked about Bonafide, which is the vaginal. It's a hyaluronic acid suppository. I have a new brand because, you know, lo and behold, here we are again. Same issue.
I know, right?
It's definitely not as bad because I don't have like the pelvic floor dysfunction now. So it's not like as bad, but you know, I still have an insane amount of milk coming out of my body.
Okay, what about like conventional, like if that is specifically to target the estrogen issue, are there any like just basic lubricants that help?
Well, okay, so wait.
It wouldn't resolve the issue.
No, because the hyaluronic acid in the Bonafide suppositories like hydrate deep tissue because the low estrogen gives you deep tissue dehydration. So it's not like you could like, you know,
slather
touch
yourself
up
in
there.
Coconut oil.
Well, yeah, because like you could touch the tissue up there and feel moisture. It's not the outside layers that are dry. It is the deep layers that are like brittle and breaking. Yeah. So that's why when, you know, something is put into that, it feels like you're tearing even though you're not bleeding or anything because like internal tissues are tearing. So
but is that something you have to do every day or just if you think you're going to have sex?
Well, okay, so here, pause. Danvia is the other brand, and it is. I might have to post it to our stories because I don't. It's in my fridge, and it's a holistic version of the Bonafide, and it has like CBD or something in it. And for like, so once I hit 6 weeks, actually I think I did it around a month. I started using the suppositories, and I would use them every day for the first couple of weeks, and then I like went down to once every other day, and now it's like once a week. So like. You definitely hit heavy in the beginning to moisturize those tissues, and then you just kind of upkeep it. Yeah. And it helps a lot.
I almost feel like everyone should do that.
I think so, too. I think it's
because
really
your estrogen is probably depleted whether you're clinical or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just what breastfeeding does, too.
Yeah.
So, and just communicate with your husband because I think like we can all, you know, as girls sit and talk like, oh, they're such horn dogs and like, oh, like he doesn't understand. I think also you have to look at like the man's point of view. This is your husband. You love your husband. Yeah. They're not like just horny all the time. It's like men need physical intimacy to feel emotionally connected. Yeah. And everybody wants to feel emotionally connected to their spouse. So I think like have grace, like understand where he's coming from. Not saying you need to force yourself into anything, but like have an open conversation. I feel like that saved Brady and I was like, I would talk to him about it. Like, hey, this physically hurts. It's not that I don't want to do it. Also, my hormones are not supporting a sex drive right now. So like, you know, hormonally, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. And I feel like even if like the first few times you just need to like talk through it and it's not necessarily anything that's like incredible. You're just kind of like, okay, so how is this feeling? Okay, so now this, or like there were several times where like, because my problem was the trauma. Like I just was like, I'm so convinced that we're going to get pregnant again if we have sex, because Sunny was like an oops honeymoon baby that we always like joke about, but it's true. And so I think I had this thought process of like, every time you have sex you get pregnant, or there's a chance of that.
Yeah.
So I was just very like, you know, cautious of that. And so, but we all know like sex is not enjoyable if you're not like, especially for a woman, if you're not, your body's not embracing that and welcoming that. If like there's any sort of tension or discord
or
within
like you're
yourself,
just not feeling good about yourself,
any of it. Yeah.
And how do you feel good about yourself post like that soon postpartum?
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I still don't look the same in the mirror. Of course you don't.
It could be, I mean, that I feel like it could go on for years like that. That's just like, that's where I'm saying like the communication piece is so crucial, even like the first few times, or maybe that's like the first few months. Like, I don't know, just taking it as it comes and just being super, and we've talked a lot about this too, of like finding other ways to connect. Like if that's just straight up not something that's working right now.
Go back and listen to our relationships as mothers, our husbands episode. We really go in depth with this, but
it's like, there's just really sweet ways you can like connect, like
and be intimate without, you know,
taking showers together and like having him wash your hair or like, you know, there's some back massages. There's so many things.
There's things you can do to connect. But I would say like you're going to enter into a roommate phase with your husband after you have a baby. And it's totally normal, totally okay. Because like this new baby, whether it's your first or second, or I mean, I'm only up to number 2, but like I'm sure it's the same with your third or fourth. Like you have to find a new rhythm. Like right now, I thought it was a crazy roommate phase after we had Noah, because we're like trying to run an office and have a baby and like take a dog down the stairs of our apartment to go to the bathroom all the time.
I know. Let's add in the fact that both of our husbands are entrepreneurs.
Yeah. But like then now we have 2 kids and now it's divide and conquer. Like when we're together, we're not together because we've got one of us is I've got the baby and Brady's adventuring with the toddler or preschooler. I guess he's not a toddler anymore. That's sad. But like now it's divide and conquer.
What's not a toddler anymore?
4. They're considered preschoolers at 4. Isn't that terrible?
Oh my gosh, no.
I know.
I hate that.
I know, it's really sad. But like the roommate phase is strong, you guys. It's real, it's strong, it's natural, it's normal, and you've got to like dig yourself out of it. And you'll hit a point postpartum, and it's going to be different for everyone, where you're like, okay, we need to start dating again.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just ready. Like a home date after the kids are in bed. And I feel like it kind of happens once your baby gets into a really good rhythm with sleep, whatever works for you, whether you're co-sleeping or whatever. But like as soon as like you guys have that rhythm down and you kind of know what to expect a little bit more, I feel like that becomes a little bit easier, or at least that's my experience. And you kind of start dating again. Yeah. But don't neglect that. And don't like let the tension of the roommate phase and the tension of like learning different roles in your partnership like drive a wedge between you. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's the person you're getting old with. Your kids are going to leave your house. They're going to have their own spouse who's going to be the light of their world. Yeah. And it's not going to be you. I know. You know, so your most important relationship should be with your spouse. That's the one you need to like really put intention into your relationship with your spouse. So don't leave them hanging. So I guess my message there, because it's really easy to leave them hanging at this point in time.
Well, and I'm sure it's like I'm sure reverse, like it's probably really easy for men to not recognize their wives in a lot of different avenues, and I'm sure that can be like just there's so many aspects. Like I read a study the other day that was saying like 90% of couples report that their marriage is more unhappy after they have babies than before they had babies. And so that means like if you're feeling like there's tension in your marriage, or there's struggles, or there's hardships after you had babies, like you're in the company of 90% of humanity. And it doesn't have to stay that way, but like if it is that right now, like try not to panic and try to just ride it out and understand you're in the thick of it. Like you're navigating a lot.
I feel like we quoted a study in that episode with husbands, and it was like I can like see the graph in my head right now, but it was like the most unhappy years of marriage, like on average from a study, was like between ages 5 to 11
Yeah.
of children.
Right.
And then like after that, like the happiness goes up and
Right.
up and up and up and
Yeah.
up. So like truly.
Because you're less and less consumed, I would
Yes.
assume.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have
You have to get to a point where you're like, you know, we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
And they're not so demanding of everything all the time.
Yeah.
Or like you just need a full night of sleep or a vacation.
Dude, yeah. I'm real tired.
But anyways, just, yeah, if that's you, you're not alone. And it's so real and so much just changed. And I think women can also feel like a bit of frustration, even like unspoken frustration towards their spouses of like, everything just changed for me.
Yeah.
Like my body's different. My life is different. My sleep is different. My boobs like hurt all the time. This infant like won't, like maybe the baby doesn't want dad yet because they don't know who dad is.
Most babies don't care about dad. Let's be honest. Until they're like a year old, your baby doesn't really care about dad.
You know, and for them, their body's the same and they're still going to work and, you know, they're coming home to you and they're not in that same role. Yeah. And I think there can be that dichotomy of like, wait a second, like I know I wanted this, but also like you get all of the good and none of the bad, or like, you know, it's just tricky because it's never going to be balanced. You know,
but also like men, their testosterone decreases postpartum. They actually have a postpartum hormonal change.
Interesting.
They do.
It's probably from God so they don't attack us.
But that can lead to like feelings of insecurity, depression. So that like that also puts them in a situation where hormonally they're like not feeling right, you know? So like, I think
and if they're taking a break from work, like that's their life calling. And like, I notice with Chase, at least anytime he's taking a break from work, he's like, I need to work. Yes. Like I need to do something. Yeah.
It's stressful.
So anyways, it's like, it's a lot.
It is. Ooh, I'm sorry, you guys.
A lot. But also I feel like working out is something that is super pushed at 6 weeks. And it's like, if you don't want to do that at 6 weeks, like don't.
I don't think I worked out with Noah until I was like, he was 6 months I was 6 months postpartum. But I spent from the time he was 6 months postpartum up until I had a scare in my pregnancy, like I heavily weight trained. So like with this pregnancy, my postpartum workouts looked a lot different than they did with Noah because I wasn't weight training before Noah. So like you can't just jump into working out, especially 6 weeks postpartum. But things you can do. So if you want something to do, it starts just literally with breathing. Like breathing and using your entire core. Like put your hands around your ribs and just feel your ribs contract down when you're exhaling a breath. That's literally where healing your core starts. And there are tons of like programs and people on Instagram, like places you can go to help you like rebuild your core. Don't just go hard. Like you need to consciously rebuild
like just
your
go
body.
on walks and like refamiliarize yourself with your body and what it's capable of and what feels good.
So also at this point in time, you know, around 6 weeks and further on, breastfeeding changes because your first few weeks, your hormones or estrogen is very low and prolactin is crazy and progesterone is crazy and you have a ton of milk, and engorgement is like something you're dealing with a lot. You might have experienced mastitis, clogged ducts.
It gets so much easier. Your body levels it all out.
Like you stop leaking every time you feed. I'm not there yet. But most people are by the time. I was just at with Molly today, the pediatrician. She's like, and I'm like, do you actually have a breast pad? She goes, are you really still leaking? I'm like, yeah, it's a problem. I know. I pumped so much with Noah that now I overproduce so much, even in my second breastfeeding journey. It sucks. But like, your boobs won't be like gigantic hard rocks when you wake up in the morning. Like things start to feel a little bit better, things get easier. Your baby's mouth is just physically bigger and they're stronger and they're eating more efficiently. So instead of sitting at the breast all day cluster feeding 30 minutes at a time, like it's maybe something for Noah. He still liked 20-minute feeds, but Lily, she's like 6-7 minutes done. She's like, I got this, it's fine. So breastfeeding's gonna get a lot easier. What else? As you start to progress, your hair will start to grow back, and then they're like little short hairs all over your head. So that's fun.
For me, I just like, I don't know. I feel like I get my face and my feet, everything gets so swollen towards the end of pregnancy for me. And I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like getting or like all of my eyelashes fell out when I was pregnant with Sunny, which was so weird.
That is weird.
Just like certain things like that. My skin always breaks out really bad when I'm pregnant. And I feel like those things kind of start to settle as your hormones start to settle.
Yes.
And that's always really nice to like recognize parts of yourself again in the mirror. But yeah, I feel like that's all that's what I would tell myself is like things just keep getting easier and better. You keep finding new things that work.
Honestly, like, you just like wake up one day and you look back on when your baby was a really little baby and you're like, wow, I actually got through that. Yeah. It's not like a magic day. Yeah. It's not like a number, like 6 months or 9 months. It's like just one day you look back and you're like, okay, this is normal now. I don't feel like postpartum anymore. I don't feel like this is my life and I'm thriving and I love it. Like you'll get there. Yeah. Just give yourself time.
And like, I just feel like we're given grace for like what we need to have at the moment, like what we need to do in the moment. So like those mornings or those nights, like you're given the grace for that moment. And then you look back and you're like, yeah, how did I do that? And it's like, the Lord just carried you through and you can do it again and again and again in different capacities. And we will throughout life, but
oh, and then, you know, you're going to get sleep down with your baby so good. And then they're going to turn 4 months old and they're going to start having sleep cycles like, you know, the rest of humanity does. Because really, truly, their first 3 months, they're like developing the same they were in the womb. Mm-hmm. They don't really have a circadian rhythm yet. They don't even like produce melatonin. They're using your melatonin. Like still, they're still have like hormones from you in their body. Like they're growing so rapidly that they need to sleep a lot, eat a lot, cluster feed. Once they hit 4 months, that kind of all slows down. The fourth trimester's over. Yeah. They're not having that intrauterine kind of growth anymore outside of the uterus, and they start to develop sleep cycles. So you'll hear the 4 month sleep regression. It's really a progression because it's neurological development within your baby's brain. But that gets a lot of people. That got me. So hard.
It's such a night and day thing.
It was because Noah was like, he slept in the bassinet. Like we gave birth and I was told not to co-sleep, so I didn't do it. And he just slept in his bassinet all night long. I never had an issue with him sleeping. And then 4 months came along and like he didn't sleep. I was like, what is happening?
Well, it's disconcerting too when I feel like you develop this routine and rhythm and you think, okay, I got this. I know my baby, and then they change. Yep. But I feel like it's just the first of many times where you're like, I know my baby, I know my kid, and then they change.
Yeah, and that continues to happen for their entire
It's like it's eternal. But it's like, it's just the minute you like, there's like a saying, it's like the minute you figure them out, they're different. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So your 4 month sleep regression, you'll just have to work through that. However, you've decided to sleep. If you're sleep training, you're gonna have to redo it. If you're co-sleeping, honestly, Lily's gonna be 4 months at the end of this week, and I haven't really noticed anything, so I'll keep you updated on that. But co-sleeping is that's why we transitioned to co-sleeping with Noah, was because of that sleep regression. What else happens around that time? Honestly, I think life just starts feeling normal again. You might not get your period, doesn't mean you can't get pregnant. Let me just say that. I didn't get I didn't get a period for 2 years, but I know so many women that are like, I didn't even know I was ovulating because I wasn't even like having a period yet, and I got pregnant. So like,
you know, the egg can drop before you bleed.
Yep.
So
be careful. You never know.
Well, we somehow filled up an hour.
Did we really?
We did, but Amanda will cover, and maybe next week I will help if I'm still pregnant. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Just postpartum mood stuff and postpartum mental health diagnoses, and how do you know if, you know, we did a whole series on birth trauma, and I feel like if that is you and you want to go listen to that, we had a lot of like diagnostic tools and things that you can kind of like screen yourself or find resources that can help screen you. But that's trauma. But there's like postpartum depression, anxiety, rage we've talked about briefly from our episodes, and just how to know what's normal, what's not, when to get help, how your partner can better understand you and help you, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't personally struggle with any of those things, but I know you did. I know many people did, that are really close to me, and I think that that's a really vital conversation.
It is.
Maybe we can go there next week.
Yeah. Hopefully you have a baby next week.
Yeah. I won't be here.
Amanda
and another guest speaker will be here maybe to talk about that with you.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.